Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host here, Goody. And Hall just stumbled his way into the stream. Goody, how are you doing on this Saturday morning, sir?
Doing well, doing well. It's a nice, active fall weather this Saturday morning.
Yes, it is, and apparently Hall's listening to some crazy stuff that I keep hearing. What's up, Hall?
No. Whatever. Yo, what's up? Got the baby running around. That's what you hear.
So just mute yourself when you aren't talking, all right? But the title of today's episode is Where to Build. Obviously, this being the bye week for Washington, there are some things to discuss in terms of where Washington is right now. I know Hall's boy, Brandon Aiyuk, has popped up again, and we had to go through this all over again because one summer being ruined wasn't enough for this football team. We just got to make it a whole year, apparently. And we're also talking to where Washington needs to build. And so I kind of want to start off with that to you, Goody, first, because I asked this to Logan on Monday, saying, well, if you're looking at the offseason saying where Washington needs to build, isn't it really hard to gauge where they need to add pieces at based on the fact of how many injuries that they've had, that they haven't had a really good look at what they've got all season long?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge in terms of reevaluating this roster and trying to evaluate the roster moving forward for next season. Because, again, with the amount of players that became unavailable over the course of the season in all different kind of positions, some of your starters, some of your key backups and across the board. But it's going to be really tough to really kind of add to this or take from this, based off of what we had on the field. The injuries are definitely a big issue, but ultimately there's still something else that's not right. You can blame the injuries as much as you like, and you have, and you're entitled to do so because it is that bad. But even with that, even with the other reserves on your team, the product that we were putting out in the field from week to week was kind of subpar. So, considering that they're NFL talent on the field and you built that roster, there's definitely still room to grow. But the injuries definitely make it hard to have a clear picture at that.
Absolutely. But, the crazy thing for me is we can talk about those injuries and everything, but against Green Bay, I mean, the Green Bay game really was an indicator for how the rest of the season was going to go. And it wasn't like we had that many injuries going into Green Bay. Obviously, it was an avalanche. It started out as a snowball, and it continued to roll and build as the season went on, you could say. But it's hard because if you look at Washington and who's going to be off the team in 2026, as of right now, the contracts that are ending in 2026 is Bobby Wagner, Marcus Mariota, Andrew Wiley, Zach Ertz, Von Miller, Jonathan Jones, Deebo Samuel, Jake Martin, Noah Igbenogany, Tress Way, Josh Johnson, Trent Scott, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Paul, Chris Rodriguez, Eddie Goldman, George Font, Preston Smith, Chris Moore, Darnell Savage, Jalen Holmes, Sheldon Day, Robbie Chosen, and Jake Moody. So as of right now, projected in 2026, we're losing 2 corners, 2 linebackers, 3 wide receivers, 3 tackles, 2 running backs, 2 very productive running backs, 3 defensive ends, 2 DTs, not including some other positions here. So there shouldn't be it's with only 5 draft picks. That is a lot. You know what I mean? So Hall,
Adam Peters has his hands full for sure.
Exactly. And obviously you can retain some of these guys, which I'm sure they would. Like if Jake Moody ends up playing well and doing some good things, then yeah, you could see him returning in others. But right now, this is a rock and a hard place, so to speak, Hall.
Yeah, what was the original question? Sorry, I was distracted.
Where does Washington need to start building based on the roster? Because I would say it's hard to gauge where they really stand due to all the injuries.
Right. Well, based off all those positions you just named, you could basically say they got to start building everywhere because I think coming into the season, they're either 31st or 32nd with players signed going into next year. You just named off a lot of them. I think it's between us and the Raiders. We only have like 31, maybe 32 players rostered going into 2026 under contract. So, like Goody said, AP has his hands out for him. He has his I don't even know. Sorry,
His
lost track of
hands
it.
full. His hands
Hands
full.
full. Sorry, this baby keeps distracting me. But yeah, I mean, I would say that we all know that it starts and ends in the trenches. So, and if you just go back and look at the history of the Dan Quinn defenses, not so much in Seattle because it was based off of the back end with the Legion of Boom and whatnot. But if you go back to his Dallas days, his defenses were based off of a dominating edge defender that can get after the quarterback, which also helps your back end guys because now they can play a little bit more man coverage. They can be a little bit more risky with the ball as far as like jumping routes or playing a little bit more aggressive. So I do think that you got to start in the trenches. Obviously, we know the offensive line going into 2026 is pretty much going to be intact, knock on wood, due to something crazy happening down this last couple games down the stretch. But I would say the defensive side of the ball on the trenches, they got to get the dominating edge. They got to get some more push up the middle, a defensive tackle that can obviously play the run, but also rush the passer while also playing the run. So I would say that the defensive line is where they got to start. And obviously, we know the back end is struggling right now. You want to improve the back end, get the horses up front. That will help them guys out.
And that's not even including, like I saw an article today saying that Deron Payne could be moved away this offseason. Marshawn Lattimore is another one with a high cap number that could moved away. So that number automatically jumps to three defensive tackles and three corners possibly being not on this roster. So there's a lot of holes to fill, but like this is a great question to kind of talk about because I was on Spaces earlier this week on Glenn's Spaces and they were kind of talking about the first round pick and what do you do there, right? Because there's guys like Arvil Reese and Cornell Tate and others, Caleb Downs. I think you could talk about saying like, where do you go in that first round? Do you go? So let me propose this question to you boys. I'll start with you, Hall. Do you go with a wide receiver, let's say of somebody of Tate's ability, or do you go with the D end? I would imagine I know where you're going to go with this or the D end move around kind of linebacker.
Yeah, before I had one more thing to add because like obviously AP has his hands full this offseason and it's going to be a challenge, but go back to last year. There was a lot of questions about this roster and he turned the roster completely over and we saw what the results were. So for the people that are saying that like, oh, I don't have trust in AP, blah, 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 he literally just did that last year. He turned the entire roster over. Almost every single person that he brought in was a hit and helped this team get to the NFC Championship. So it's not that it cannot be done. The problem is it was kind of built like this year, where it was a lot of one-year deals, a lot of kind of older, aging veterans that helped this team out. So that's where the rubber meets the road. But as far as this next question, actually, I'm going to surprise you. I would say because I just talked about that defensive end, that game-changing edge. As much as I would love to get as many weapons around Jaden as possible, because when he was at his best at LSU, he had two dogs on the outside that dictated coverage on the back end, that could beat man coverage, that can win one-on-one down the field, and that opened up everything else for the running game, for not only the running backs but for him. He rushed over 1,000 yards at LSU that last final season. So if he gets, I know a lot of people want that first round like Cornell Tate. My man, I've loved Jordan Tyson going back to 2 years ago at Arizona State. That's been my guy. And I've been like, if we had the chance to draft him, I would love to draft him. But I just think that the offense hasn't really been the problem this year per se. Like it hasn't been obviously going back to last year, but the offense is second and third and three and outs right now in the NFL. The offense is like middle of the pack right now, and that's only due to the injuries. If they had all the horses out there, they'd be probably ranked a little bit higher. So I just think that defensive end, that game-changing edge defender, whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency somehow, some way, and I do think that that's the kind of the key to this team progressing and kind of getting back to where they want to be. So as much as I love Cornell Tate, I think he's going to be a dog. As much as I love Jordan Tyson, I think he's going to be the next like big up and coming young rookie wide receiver, he can stay healthy. You got to go with that first round edge defender. If a guy like Ruben Bain drops there to 7, where we are right now, so I got to go with the edge guy in round 1.
Yeah, like I haven't done any scouting yet. I'm excited to get going. I still think it's way too early to start scouting and looking at next season, but I do think in building the roster, it is a really good question and something to talk about in terms of where do you go at this point, because it's hard to gauge where they are based on all the injuries. But I love this fan base, as aggravating as it is at times. You see Jackson Smith and Jigba catch a one-handed pass last Sunday, and you hear a fan base like, yeah, that's the kind of guy that we need. Like, out of everything you've seen with this football team, you think that's what this football team needs? Honestly, in my personal opinion, it's the identity on defense, because you perfectly laid it out with Micah Parsons in Dallas, and with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt and their kind of defense. Their identity defensively was speed, getting after the rusher, getting after the passer in a quick manner. They had to get the ball out of their hands, and they were turnover dependent a lot of the time, because it was either feast or famine, right, with that defense. You need to bring that kind of identity to Washington. And honestly, to be perfectly honest, Arvil Reese shouldn't even be close to where Washington is picking. Based on what I've heard, what I've seen, guys I respect like Jordan Reed talking about him and how good he is. But that's the kind of player Washington really truly needs, is a piece that they can move all over the line, and that's somebody that could really pay dividends for this defense, being able to accelerate defensively what they're trying to do. Because this was a question coming into the last season that I said about Dan Quinn's defense. They had Micah. They were heavily dependent on Micah, and a lot of their turnovers were based on Micah's pass rushing. Well, if you don't have that in Washington, what are we going to get defensively? And that's still the question you have right now, and they're kind of going through. Because if you don't have that rusher, it's the floodgates are open. You just get ran over all the way down the field, and that's kind of been the MO all season. So I think it is Arvil Reese and a defensive end type, that an actual person that could be the helping of the identity defensively, of being able to be tenacious and getting after the passer. As much as a great, amazing thing it would be to add a top 10 talent of a wide receiver here, I ultimately fall back on what I said last season, that it falls on the quarterback to get the ball in the playmaker's hands. And I've seen many quarterbacks make wide receivers over the years. And if you have a good quarterback, that's the most important piece. If you have a good quarterback, there's a good chance they're going to be able to make some wide receivers. And what I mean by make is Antonio Brown, 7th round pick, right, or undrafted free agent, ended up being a superstar in the league. Puka Nacua, 5th round pick, superstar in the league. You can look down the list and say you don't really need to have a top 10 guy to get top 10 production. You just need to have a good marriage of quarterback and wide receiver and find that talent where it is and being able to incorporate and combine them. So I do think that you have a better chance of getting that kind of production from a wide receiver standpoint than a D end in the later rounds of the draft, if that makes sense. So I'm going with D end all day.
I gotta say, that's a tough one. I mean, I know the probably the correct answer, the popular answer, would be D end. We've been trying to get a stud over here to set the edge for 2 years now at least with this regime. But that's really hard to say, because ultimately free agency does come before the draft, so you never know if you could actually kind of get something in the market. I don't know what's really available right now, but seeing how the shakedown of our wide receiver core kind of got thin after Terry being out, Debo being up and down, having the youth in Dalen Lane, the learning curve, Luke McCaffrey going down. Then you got guys coming off the street, practice squad. So I mean, for the projection of the franchise in this little kind of time chill that we have with Jaden at the helm, I wouldn't be so against having a top tier wide receiver coming out first round, throwing him in the offense. Whether Cliff is here or not, right? We don't know what that's looking like either. So maybe a new coordinator comes in, maybe a new coordinator doesn't. But just getting some youth in the offense, some speed. Everybody talks about speed, need more speed. So yep. I don't really know who's at the top of the list in terms of DNs and wide receivers this season. But I wouldn't be opposed to throwing in a young wide receiver. That's kind of a surefire thing.
I like the way you broke that down, which
I
goes
love that thinking.
well. It goes into the point of saying like we don't know what's going to happen on the free agent market, which brings into my next question that I have proposed to you guys, because Hall's boy speculating, it's being rumored by Diana Rossini and Mike Silver, I think, if I'm not mistaken, saying that Brandon Aiyuk is on his way to a divorce with the San Francisco 49ers. I think he got 2 or 3 games in with that contract before he tore his ACL. Hasn't shown up to meetings, has been absent, ghosting them, so to speak. So it looks like he's going to be on his way out. So being said, Goody, are you of the elk that wants to see Brandon Aiyuk in Washington?
Firm, no. You know, I just I don't really see. I understand he's a talented wide receiver. I understand his relationship with Jaden. They're like best friends and all that stuff, but I haven't really seen anything in his game that really stands out to me. Compared to other wide receivers that are kind of just doing it without having to have the spotlight on them, if you will. I was never really big on Brandon Aiyuk personally, but
Good man, you are.
who knows? I mean, we do a lot of business with San Francisco right now, as you can tell. So it's very possible, but I'm not really on that train.
It's so funny because everyone was complaining that we were the Washington Panthers and everything, and I hear everyone talking this season about Terry. Oh, as soon as he got paid, man, he just chilled, bro. He didn't care about the team no more. As soon as he got paid, he didn't want to, even though this is his second contract that he's earned, like he did that the first time he got paid, right? But like, it's funny to hear everyone say that, and then the same people going, "Oh, let's Brandon Aiyuk, AP, bring him in. We need him." It's like, at what point do you understand the irony of all this? And like I understand from a standpoint of saying where Washington only has 5 draft picks. They do need offensive weapons. They do need game changers.
They got 6 picks.
They have 6?
Yeah.
They do have game changers. Or they do need game changers. And obviously Brandon Aiyuk, you could say 2 years ago, was definitely a game changer, without a doubt. Would he still be? Don't know. Being a year off of football, I'd be willing to say I would welcome Brandon Aiyuk for the vet minimum, to be perfectly honest with you. This is somebody who, after getting paid, you saw him yelling with Kyle Shanahan about not wearing his shorts at practice. You guys remember that video. Showed our game film, not showing up to meetings, separating himself from the organization that just paid him. And I understand that people will say it's because he wants to come to Washington. I don't know if that's 100% fact. I'm just saying I understand he's boys with Jaden Daniels, but I don't want to allocate a bunch of those funds to somebody who basically quit on his team. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, the 49ers have been desperately needing wide receiver help to the point where they went and got Kendrick Bourne off the street, who performed well for them. And I understand that Brandon Aiyuk may not be healthy right now. But is that really something that we want to add to this equation for a large amount of funds? So vet minimum, I'm all for it. I know how Hall feels about it. I know Hall was licking his chops as soon as that report came out. But it's just the irony of it all is very funny. Very, very funny to me. I know that he's a younger guy, but a year coming off the ACL, the way that it's ending with San Francisco, I don't know, man. It smells fishy.
Well, this is all revisionist history because he did all that showing the film and acting out stuff before he got paid. Then he got paid and he showed up, and then just so happened he was still kind of like doing some weird stuff. I don't know, and then he went out and played a couple games, got injured. So I wouldn't compare it to Terry as far as like, oh, he got paid and he chilled. He got paid, he came out and then got injured, kind of literally the same as I think as Terry did. That's the comparison to Terry.
But then he stopped showing up to meetings.
Well, yeah, now he stopped showing up to them. I don't know what got going on right now. I mean, and that's where I'm kind of at with it. See, like, you're making it like that's my boy. It's a Brandon Aiyuk thing. No, I just want weapons around our quarterback. Bro. I just want weapons, like elite, not even elite. I just want good to great weapons around our quarterback because, like Goody said, we saw what happened this year. We all thought like, oh, we got Devo, we got Terry, we got Luke. He's gonna come on, and which he did before he got injured. But as soon as one of these guys got injured, two of these guys got injured, we saw how the whole entire room crumbled. So that's kind of my point where it's like, and like you said, we only have 6 picks. Two of them or three of them are in the top 150. Two are in the top 100. So,
Like you said, because you had a really good point before about how Adam Peters came in with nothing and overturned a roster, and we went to the NFC Championship. So the fact that it can be done, it has been done, is very encouraging. Um, in comparison to us having 6 picks this year, how many picks did we have their first year, Adam Peters' first year? Anybody know?
I think it was like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think it was
Eight or
8 or
nine.
9.
Okay.
And then
But
last year we had like, I think 6. So like technically we've had 2 full drafts because we've had 14 players drafted over the past 2 years. I just think it was more in the first year and then less in the second year. But
gotcha.
Real quick, the Tommy T underscore HTTC on YouTube says he gave back money to leave. How nice of him.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's where I'm like, I don't know what they got going on. I don't know what he got going on with the front office and Kyle Shanahan and all those guys, whatever. But see, like I said, I don't even. It's not even really about like a Brandon Aiyuk thing. Like, sure, I'm more of like you, Kyle. Like, I'm not talking about like pay that man, give him a new contract,
Right.
pick up whatever money he's owed from San Francisco. No, if he's gonna be like not even like a vet minimum, but like a low contract type of guy,
I would
like
agree.
low risk type of low risk, high reward, then yes, bring him in because what did I say going back? And it depends on how healthy he is, how his knees looking. Because before the injury, you can't say that man wasn't a great, almost to an elite route runner. And that's what
he
we
was
need.
a fantastic route runner.
And that's what we need right now. We need a guy that can run routes and separate from these man coverage. He can eat up the zone. But it all depends on how his knees looking, how he's coming back from the ACL. So that's why I'm saying low risk, high reward on a lower type of contract. 1 year deal, prove it. If you show you that guy still, all right, bet we're moving forward with you in 2027 and beyond possibly. But yeah, it goes back to, like I said, it's not really like a brand. They could bring in Jacoby Myers. They could bring in Rashid Shaheed that's in Seattle right now. There's a couple guys on the market next year that can help this team. I just want weapons around Jaden Daniels because going back to what I said earlier, when he was at his best at LSU, he had Malik Neighbors on the outside. He had Ryan Thomas on the outside. He had Mason Taylor eating up the middle of the field at tight end, and they had a decent running back and a good running back in college, and Edwards Hilaire. So he had they had.
No, he was with Joe Burrow.
Oh, you're right. Who was the running back then? I forget who the running
Brian
back was.
Thomas.
Anyway,
They were shopping Brian Thomas, I think, right? The
Yeah.
Jaguars were
yeah,
flirting with that idea.
and he's out again. He's been banged up all year, so who knows what's going on with that.
He's had to fall off from his rookie year till this year. He's had a
100%.
definitely recession.
But I would just say, like I said, it just goes back to it could be Aiyuk, it could be Jacoby Myers, it could be Rashid Shaheed, it could be one of these other guys that's going to be available on the market. We don't know who's going to shake loose as far as like I don't want to be here anymore on my team. They're not winning, blah blah blah. I just want weapons around our guy because when he's at his best, he has 2 guys on the outside that can win deep, beat man coverage, and a good athletic tight end that can stretch the field and eat the middle of the field up. So I just want this offense to get back to what they were in 2024. I know the potential is there. I know they can. We just got to get the guys on the outside to do it, whether it's Brandon Aiyuk or whoever it may be. So that's how I feel about that.
I got you. All I'm saying, like, I'm with you on the, like, if he really wants to be here that bad, well, prove it then. Make sure.
I don't even think he's going to come here, to be honest with you. I think there's other teams that are going to probably offer him more money than we'll try to offer him. It's about he's going to be a free agent, so he has his choice of where he wants to go. But there's good teams out there, like the Patriots are going to need a wide receiver. They have hella money coming into this next season.
Yeah.
The Raiders are going to need a wide receiver. He's a West Coast guy. Maybe he wants to stay on the West Coast.
Please
so
do.
there's other teams. There's other teams out there that are probably going to be a lot more willing to offer him a bigger contract than what they've kind of penny pinched around here going into 1.5 years.
I'm more speaking of
saying.
like the whole just general idea of Brandon Aiyuk from our fan base's perspective that he wants to be here. Well, if he wants,
he probably does want to be here because his boy is over here.
I understand.
He knows
like that's what I'm saying is prove it. Like
yeah, and that's my point. Where like he's going to be a free agent, so he can willfully choose where he wants to go. Is he going to take the money for a lesser team somewhere else? Is he going to take he wanted to go to Pittsburgh last year as well. So there's going to be other teams out there that are going to be on the market for him, poaching for him. So again, if he wants to come here, he wants to take a lesser deal, a show it and prove it deal. I am all for that. I don't want to go out there and break the bank for him. Hell no.
No, I'm with you there. Absolutely. He's got to earn it. Vet minimum, you already got paid. Saw how that turned out. So let's see how you do with not having
That's the other
much.
thing. It's kind of they're talking about the guarantees have been voided, so I don't really know if technically he like got paid. I think
Oh,
a
he
lot of
got
that
paid.
money.
No, it's his guarantees for 2026. They did
Okay,
not
all
pick
right,
up.
all right, all right, all right.
So
Bet.
he got his
So he
guarantees
still
for
got
this season.
he got the bonus or the money at the signing, the
Yes.
guaranteed
Yeah,
stuff. Okay,
and that's
gotcha.
that's what Tommy T is saying, that he gave money back to leave. Like, oh, how nice of you. How nice of you to do
That
that.
makes sense. All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so that's my whole kind of point here, is that, like, is that really someone you want to invest heavily into? And we all have to be legitimate, honest, and realistic
Honestly,
about the
a guy like
situation.
Jawan Jennings is going to be on the market also. I forgot about that.
Well,
That's AP's guys also. So that's
well,
what I'm saying. There's
I'll,
like other people out there.
I would argue that San Fran realized that they made a mistake and that they paid the wrong guy. And so what they're going to do is that money that was given back from Brandon Aiyuk with those guarantees for this upcoming
That's
season
true.
is
Yeah, give it to
probably
Jawan
going to
Jennings.
Jawan Jennings.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that guy obviously shows up for meetings. Now, the next thing, and speaking of money, I wanted to ask you guys this because I did see some hoopla about this on Twitter. It's the bye week, man. We could talk about it. But the raising of ticket prices for 2026. You saw some of the usuals complaining. You saw some complaining. I know Hog Farmer Jeff said he wasn't renewing because we have 9 home games, but one of those home games is overseas international, so it's only 8, and they raised the ticket prices. What do you think about the raising of the ticket prices? I know it's money out of your pocket. Our time is valuable, of course, but what do you think about it, Goody?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, right? Nobody's ever excited about prices going up on anything, right? So just flat out, it does suck, but you can kind of anticipate that. You can see that. They're preparing to put together a brand new, state-of-the-art stadium in the capital of the country here. So these are things that you could project seeing. If they're going to invest that kind of money into a brand new stadium, they're obviously going to have to get that money from somewhere, right? So it's just going to be kind of business as usual. Prices going up. I understand how people feel about it that have been paying a certain amount for a certain amount of time. Again, with the idea of having 9 home games, but one is subtracted, you only get 8 on the, in the States. That's kind of a bummer. I don't really know the details about that. They kind of work that stuff out with those guys, but yeah, it sucks, but it's kind of it's the world we live in. Prices go up, nothing gets cheaper. So maybe when we open that new stadium in 2030, we'll have some pretty fair ticket prices by then. We'll see.
Yeah, just imagine how much the ticket prices would be if the ownership granted the DC City Council to have share of revenue. How much more expensive that would be, just more slice out of the pie, which was ridiculous to say the least of when they wanted that, just showing you how stupid politicians are. But what I'll say is we should have expected this, man. Like, this is something that is normal. They're making improvements to the current stadium. You're right. They put in new speakers. They've adjusted a lot of things concession wise. They added those new setups where you could go in, buy your beer, get your food, and you don't even have to talk to anybody when you do it. They've made a lot of improvements. Do you think that's for free? Right? And this is my whole question about when people are yelling online saying owners should pay for new stadiums, it should not fall on the state, the government, the people taxes. Okay, but where do you think that money's going to be coming from? It's coming from us anyway. They're going to raise ticket prices, being able to do that. Well, how is ownership going to get that money? You can't just buy. Like, people just think money's limitless. Like, you just can't buy a new stadium like, oh, I got it. Like Walmart money. Like, Josh Harris does not have Walmart money. You know what I mean? They're going to have to raise something in order to get there, right? I would love for them just to overcharge 76ers fans to pay for our new stadium, but that's impossible to really do. I as much as I would love hearing that, it's going to happen to us. And so I understand that people are upset that there's 9 home games, only 8 really that you're getting. But what did you expect was going to happen, right? Like, let's put this in a degenerate term, right? You got like a drug dealer, right? You're a drug user, you go to your drug guy and you're like, look, man, I need you to get better product. I need something better. I need something more. And he's going to say, well, it costs more to do that. Like, I can't get fronted that. So, I mean, if you want to pay more right now, then yeah, I could get it for you, but you got to pay more. You got to pay me more in order to get that. It's the same thing here. That's why it's happening. That's why they need this money. That's why they're raising the ticket prices. So I just think that I don't fault people for complaining about it. I just fault people for not realizing that this was inevitable. Like, they thought that ticket prices were going to raise when the new stadium opened. That's not how it happens, man. And you can complain and everything about the international games, but how many international games have we had to pay for the past couple of years? Hasn't really happened. It's like once in a while that we have to pay for it. So it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I can see why people are complaining about it. And if I was a season ticket holder and I was in that group of people that the price is going up, I would probably be complaining too. Because at the end of the day, you just look around the world, this just in life, everything is going up. A lot of people's paychecks aren't going up. So it's just more money coming out of your pocket. So, and like you said, they put in a lot of investments into the current stadium. The new, they've invested into the facilities out in Ashburn that we were out
Thank
there,
you.
like the locker rooms and whatnot.
Yes.
The whole facility out there. So, like you said, where did you think that they weren't just giving that money out to be like, well, I guess we'll make it back whenever we want to, you know? Like, no, they got to make the money back in a timely manner because they got other stuff they need to pay for, upgrade, and all the other stuff coming down the pike as far as like the stadium goes. They got to have to pay for different types of permits and stuff coming up. So like they're investing. You got to spend money to make money. So like they're spending the money because they're trying to make more money coming down the line. So I get it why people are complaining. And for the people, I get it, like the whole international game that takes away from you're paying for another home game that you're not really probably not going to attend. But you can't be really mad at yeah, she's mad too. You can't be really mad at the team. Like the NFL is the one that the schedule makers are the one that slate them to go overseas. It's not like Josh Harris is over here like, hey, put us overseas. Like the NFL makes that decision.
Ticket prices.
Yeah, the NFL makes that decision. And I would have to guess that like this is not just a Washington thing as far as like ticket prices going up. I guarantee if you looked around the other 31 teams in the NFL, their prices are probably going up too. You don't think the Browns' prices are going up? They're getting a new stadium. You don't think the Bills' prices are going up? They're getting a new stadium. So it is what it is. And look, people are going to complain because the type of season that they're having right now. If it was the type of season that everyone thought we were going to have and they were like 7-3 or 8-3 right now instead of 3-8, nobody would be complaining because they're winning. And they're like, hey, they're putting a great product on the field. I don't mind paying for that. It's because everything has gone back to dog shit like it was beforehand. Now everyone wants to complain about it. So I get it. If I was one of the season ticket holders, I probably would be complaining too. But at the end of the day, you got to spend money to make money. And hopefully next year, the product will be back to what we had last year or somewhere close. And the money will be worth it in the end.
Right. It's funny. This guy I wrote on there, like I put out that tweet the other day talking about Jaden Daniels starting again this season. And basically this guy responded back and saying the only reason that you want Jaden to start is because you're a season ticket holder. Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble here, pal, but I've never been a season ticket holder. You know, like I don't have that kind of bread, buddy. So it's not that. It's the reality of the situation. Because I loved it where he said, I said back to him, I said, look, what you're going through right now is a trust issue with Jaden Daniels. If you don't want to start Jaden Daniels the rest of this season because it's a losing season, then you don't have trust in Jaden to stay healthy. And if you don't have trust in Jaden Daniels to stay healthy, then you are acknowledging that Washington made the wrong pick. Because it doesn't matter at what point during the season it's at. You want your starting quarterback out there leading your football team. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. You have to get better. You have to generate towards next season. So if you're going to admit that, then be upfront with it. And he came back with, well, no, I don't trust this coaching staff. And it's like, stop lying to yourself. That's not what's happening here. The coaching staff has no ability over him getting injured or not. He does, Jaden does on the field, and you have to be honest about it. So either you want to see him play and you're willing to admit that you're not scared of him getting hurt, because to be honest with you, with these kind of quarterback things, the last thing you want to do is what we did with RG3, where we're holding on for dear life to that electricity comes back, that spark comes back, and you're holding on to him, and you extend him, you grant him the 5th-year option money just to have him sit on the bench, right? Just in hopes that it comes back. You want to figure this thing out quickly. So if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But you know that you need to look for a backup plan long term. And I don't think a lot of the fan base is ready to acknowledge that reality of what could possibly be. But that's why Jaden needs to be out there to earn that trust, if that makes sense.
100%.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. That's the truth.
It's sad, man. It really is sad. But we were talking about international games, and I think what was floated hypothetically was that either London or Brazil was talked about for the international games. So, Hall, of those two, if you were going to go, of those two, which one would you rather go to?
Cheerio, mate.
You want to go to London?
Yeah, I want to go see my guys over in London, man. They come over here all the
dude,
they come over here all the time.
I did not think you were going to say that. I did not think you were going to say that.
Oh, trust me. I know what's over in Brazil. I wouldn't be mad if we went over there.
You talk about the see-through blue water all the time.
Oh, I'm talking about the water. I was talking about something else. But
I know what you're talking about. But I'm saying that's like whenever we talk about vacations on here, the one thing you say is, "I want the see-through blue water. I want my feet in the
Yeah, it is true. I didn't really think about that part of it. But I still got to go to London. As much as Brazil would be a good time, it'd be fun. I mean, water, other things. I would just go to London because the London boys always come over here. The UK guys, they always come over here. So I want to go over there and see how they live and kick it over in the UK and spend a couple of days with them. And but wouldn't be mad at Brazil. I'll tell you that.
No, and look, I love my boys in the UK. I love them to death. I would love to be able to go. But if I had the choice, it's Brazil. You know what I mean?
So I guess it depends what time of year, because if it's going to be like a later in the year game, I don't want to go over to London and be in the cold. So
it's always cold in London.
Oh, really?
No, it's always cold, dude. It's always rainy. It's always cloudy. And the only sunny thing about London is the people in it. And let's be honest with that. And that's 100% true. That's why we all want to go to London. But in London in World War II, what did they say? We were, what? Oh my gosh. We were over-boozed, over-sexed, and over here. They were complaining with how many Americans were in London and in England in World War II. So we've been there a lot. All right? Brazil is all about Americans. I remember my one good friend Nuno Bacano is my best friend growing up. His family was Brazilian, and he was like, "You ever want to come with us down to Brazil?" And I was like, "Absolutely, dude. I'd love to go down there with you." He's like, "Good, but you'd have to learn Portuguese." And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "Because if they hear you speaking English, you're getting kidnapped." I was like, "Okay, duly noted, my friend."
Now you just swim me back to London. See, there you go.
Right. But obviously I'm a grown man now. That was 8th, 9th grade, so it's a little bit different. But regardless, Brazil
Didn't
obviously
they have to section off the players from certain places in Brazil while they were there too?
Oh yeah,
they couldn't wear a certain color.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Dude.
With all that,
Brazil's where they had the scooter robberies. They roll up on you on a scooter with somebody on the back, and they rob you, and then they get back on the scooter and leave.
Yeah, so you got to worry about getting kidnapped and robbed over there. At least the worst I got to worry about in London is getting stabbed because they don't have guns over there. I'll be fine.
I mean, it's same end result there, pal.
Nah, I can run from the knife.
Just saying.
I can't run from the guy in Brazil with a gun or trying to rob me.
I don't know. You could hope he's a bad shot. With a knife, it's right up and close on you. But regardless, all in all, I would love to be able to go to Brazil, but I do have to pick London because the boys have been trying to get us over to London for a while. And they've come over here, and I can't be selfish and pick a beautiful beach, a beautiful country, nice weather.
Other beautiful things.
Yeah, and
trees. There's some of the trees, man. The palm trees.
The palm trees. I'd have to go to London to see the boys and to see their places, of course.
Yeah, that's a tough one. In terms of your overall safety, you definitely feel better in London. But I mean, it's kind of hard to pass up a trip to Brazil. I'll say if it was between Spain and Brazil, I would be picking Spain. That was the one that I definitely wanted to get to, so that does count as Europe. But between London and Brazil, I think I would be on the risky side, man. I think I'd be going south. I think I'd be going south, going to Brazil. Check it out.
I got you. I
Food,
look kind of Spanish,
honestly,
so I think I
I'll
get
be
it with you.
honest. The thing that's leaning me more towards Brazil is I just watched a food review, and he was in London in the UK trying a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, no,
Oh yeah,
I'll,
nah.
I'll go to Brazil. Take me to
I would
Brazil.
definitely be living off of like hamburgers and like fish and chips or something like that. Other stuff like,
I'll be eating better at my game than
Eating
you guys will.
horse burgers is what you'd be eating.
well, I guess I'm eating fish and chips for however long I'm over there.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Fish, chips,
Brazil.
and beer.
I'm with you, Goody. I'm with you. That was a good way to say it. Because I've even heard about Spain not always having the best, but I don't think that my buddy who went over to Spain was eating the right things that he should be. But the next question I have for you boys is your Santa's list for this Washington season of these last couple games. What is your list that you're writing to Santa?
Um, just everyone stay healthy. Everyone stay healthy going in, coming down the stretch, or healthy enough to coming in down the stretch where
That's a dumb
it's
question.
not like a big crazy injury that's going to affect you in 2026. Would be one. Second one would be whatever younger guys are still available at this point, because I mean the roster's so beat up. I don't even know who's available, who's not at this point. But if there's any younger guys that can still get on the field, like Jalen Lane, if he can still get on the field, obviously Ben Sinnott, everyone's been clamoring for him to get on the field a little bit more. If guys like that can get a little bit more reps, then I guess that would be on my wish list because we got to know what we have or don't have, as Goody has eloquently stated many times going into next year. So that would be my two things on the Santa list.
Okay, it was kind of a dumb question. I will be honest and admit that. So
That's a good
let's.
one, actually. That's a pretty good one. That's
You
not a
think
bad
so?
one.
Because
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe we should change it up to like Santa's list of naughty and nice, like of the players on the team, who's on which list. But Goody, answer it how you please.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it real simple for Santa, right? Less is more. If I had a wish list for for this season, next season, for this team is that they keep their mojo. I want them to keep their confidence, their brotherhood mentality. Whatever they began when they started building this thing, I want them to not lose sight of that. I feel like that's the very, very important glue that keeps this bunch together, that keeps this bunch really dangerous, is how they kind of fight for each other and they have the utmost confidence in a standard that they set for themselves. But I just don't want them to lose confidence. I don't want them to kind of feel like the message is dead. This isn't working. I want them to kind of build on it and continue to feed that fire, with some wood planks. But that would be my wish. Just keep the mojo and just kind of chalk this season up and just get back to the gridiron, off season.
Yeah, I've said it before. This season is a lot like Austin Powers when he lost his mojo. Just down in the dumps. And I agree with you. The Santa's list would be for Jaden, for Terry to come back, and for Washington to kind of feel like themselves again in building up of what they had last season. So that way you finish the season on a high note going in to 2026. You have something to build on to say we could get back to it. Because to be honest with you, we are all humans. And it's not like we are all absolutely perfect. And so when this season kind of thing happens, you have all off season to think about, to speculate, to wonder, is last season the real thing? Like, is that what really is was that just a pipe dream in 2024? So like that's where in my mind goes like you have to finish on a high note, which is why I still believe that Dan Quinn had Jane Daniels still in the game against Seattle, wanting to finish on a high note, to not just get your teeth kicked in and have nothing to fight back with. It's unfortunate that he got hurt, but I've never put him at fault for that. So that's why I would still put him into this season. You have to finish on a high note to go into next season to be excited about, to get especially the fan base excited about. Everyone's already complaining about ticket prices. Well, if Terry comes back, Jaden comes back, Noah comes back, and they start putting up points again, well, people are going to be more excited to put up those prices and to pay for them, if that makes any sense. Now let's
And
finish
to
up.
that point, like I know a lot of people say like, "Oh, well, it's a lost season and no momentum carries over. Every year is a different year," and that is very true. But tell that to Dan Campbell and the Lions, because look, when Dan Campbell took over, they were 0 and whatever, 1 and whatever they were. That second year, they won a couple games, and in that third year, they were 0 and like 8 in the first half of the season, maybe the second year, whatever year it was. But then down that second half of that season, they started playing more. They started buying into the message more. They won however many games down the stretch. They beat the Packers week 17 or whatever, 18, whatever it was, to knock them out of the playoffs. And everyone said, like, look out for that Lions team coming into whatever year that was coming up next.
23.
And yeah, 23. And from that point on, the Lions have taken off and been a contender, been a top team in the NFC since that point in time. So, like, yes, I do agree. There's not a lot of, like, sometimes momentum doesn't carry over. Sometimes, or every year is a different year. Every season is a different season. Every roster is always different. But there's something about, like you said, that confidence, finishing on a high note, finishing the season out strong to kind of like, okay, next year, I know what I got to do to keep climbing that ladder and ascending to make this team what we all think it can be. So that's why I kind of, like you said, you got to put Jaden back out there. You got to put Terry back out there. You got to put whoever is healthy back out there to build on what's coming up next year.
I totally agree with you. Now let's answer some fan questions, and we kind of talked about this already. But Goody, this one is from the Colonel. Now that everyone's waving the white flag on our season, what's next? We have minimal draft picks in the 2026 NFL draft, in part because of the Lattimore fiasco, but Tunsil and Kinlaw were also not cheap. It seems we were only one or two pieces away from a championship, but now we are in a total rebuild mode. How do you see our way ahead?
Honestly, that's a good question to ask now or to hear now because it would be a little bit harder to answer that kind of definitively without what Hall said earlier in terms of trust in the process. When Adam Peters came into this, to this team and got his job as the GM, think about what the roster was. Think about what we started that following season with, how much turnover, how much work he had to do with very little resources. And again, we went to the NFC Championship. Again, granted, Jaden Daniels had an unbelievable rookie season, but it wasn't, I mean, it was a lot of him, but it wasn't all of him, right? So the roster that he put together in that offseason was the kind of engine to get to where we got. And he was able to do that again with nothing in just a season's time. So again, moving forward with this team, obviously, like you rang off the list, Kyle, about how many people are not expected or not so much expected, but not on contract for next year. So he's basically back in that fire pit where he's got to really just kind of create this team strategically and hopefully with a little bit more knowledge of what is needed. And I have confidence that he will be able to do that just based off of the track record. I saw him do it already, and that was just last year. I can't say enough how good of a point that is that Hall made on that because, he proved it to be done. So this year is kind of an outlier. I'm sure Adam Peters is licking his chops as well, right? I'm sure he's a competitor. He knows that this product has not been up to expectations considering how many goddamn,
To say the least.
primetime games we've had.
Yeah.
Give me my 1:00 game back. God. But yeah, I think he's gonna have to do what he did his first season, and I have confidence that it'll get done. But it'll be a roller coaster.
It's funny because I did have a couple of thoughts this season with those primetime games. I hate to say this that I said it, but I'm 35 years old, right? I'm an old man. And I remember some of those primetime games thinking like, yeah, we have the oldest roster in the NFL. Maybe this isn't the best team to be playing at night because we should be in bed already. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But obviously, these are NFL players; they're different. But that thought did come across my mind. The way ahead is going to be there's going to be bold moves that have to be made, right? Because you do have to balance out the draft picks, the younger, with the older. So how can you get the most production and facilitation out of the older, but also being able to give the younger the ability to rise up to the occasion to meet where you want them to be at, right? This is so what I would imagine is of those picks, of those guys that aren't under contract, we're going to see a hefty amount of them brought back simply so you can lesser the drop off from the older side, right? Because you still need to meet that. If you go way, way too young, yes, you want speed, but are you necessarily really getting that speed? I'm not 100% sure about that. So I would go into to say that you're going to see a good amount of these guys resigned. You're going to see a big signing in free agency in order to kind of generate some excitement, just more explosion. But they have to hit on the draft picks. And if you're going to have the high draft pick, you have to hit. And I imagine with how they did with Jaden Daniels that they're going to be able to do that as well this time around. And I would even willing to say that Josh Connerly, the way that he's been playing as of late, should be given more of a leash in terms of being on the right side of what he's done. That was a hit. He did start. He's started every game. So I give credit to that young man and how he's battled this season. But I would say the trade back in the first round is not somewhere I want Washington to be. As much as I would like more draft picks, I think it is very necessary in order for them to do so. I typically am under the trade back scenario, but Washington needs impact players. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, like you said, it's going into it. I was definitely like on the well, they have no choice but to trade back. Like they got to recoup a second at least. Like they got to get that fourth back or whatever it be at the minimum. But when I really like sat down and thought about it, like at the state of the roster, the blue chip players that we do have, which is just basically just Jaden Daniels, or we don't really have like
Terry
any.
McLaurin.
I know I wouldn't call him a blue chip player because he's like getting older.
Oh,
but I would say
God.
he's a star player. He's our star player. Blue chip players are like I would call them like the top elite of the elite. But
Fine, I'll give you that.
but I would say he's a star. He's a fringe superstar player. So outside of like Jaden and Terry, we don't really have that explosive young like up and coming like he's going to be here for the next 5 to 10 years type of player. So that's when I was like, you know what, they have to take one of those blue chip, highly touted first round prospect that they think is going to be the guy for the next 5 to 10 years, just like they think Jaden Daniels is going to be the guy for the next 10 years plus. So they need to stay where they're at, wherever they're slotted at, unless they get some crazy offer, some crazy haul that they can't refuse. Obviously, you got to do that. But yeah, they're going to have to build with some young ascending blue chip talent, and they're going to have to supplement again through free agency. And like you said, there's going to be probably they have like what? I think they're like 60, 80, 90 million dollars in cap space coming up. So they're going to be able to spend a little bit of money. A lot of the money is going to go to obviously they're going to have to re-up with Laramie Tunsil. He's going to take a little chunk of that money. And then like you said, I think they can probably bring in a top tier, like tier 1, tier 2 type of free agent, maybe one or two of those type of guys. But the rest of the roster is going to be another 1 or 2 year type of supplemental guys just to fill the back end, fill the middle and the back end of the roster out. But to your point, they have 6 picks right now. I could see them maybe trading in the third round to like a couple spots back, recruit a fourth and a fifth, maybe something like that. But as of right now, they have 6 picks. It's to the point where like AP, he has to hit on at least 3. 50% of these guys that you draft out of this 6 that we have right now, they got to be starters / rotational, like guys that are really going to be contributors and play at a high level because the roster is kind of shaky right now as far as like I said, the actual top tier talent, even like the mid tier talent. Like going back to last year's preseason, a lot of people just shrugged it off like, it's the back end of the roster guys. Who cares? Da, 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 da. But we saw that really came to light this year. The depth is not there at all. So they got to start really like signing kind of those middle tier kind of guys in free agency, not just the 1 year deals. You got to start giving guys 2-3 year deals like they did with Luvu, Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong, guys like that. You got to start stacking players. So I would say that they got to hit on a lot of free agents that are going to be contributors and starters like they did last year. And they got to hit on at least 50% of these picks that they have right now to be starters / contributors. And I'll say it again. A lot of people coming into this thought like, oh, it's a recalibration, whatever, Dan Quinn, you're crazy. This is a rebuild. And he turned the entire roster over, and look what happened. So I'm not going to say that's going to be next year's results, but if he can turn the roster over again and get us competitive again, it's done. It's been done before. I think he can do it again.
Yeah, Adam Peters has to hit on those draft picks like Hall if he was in Brazil. You got to hit on him,
Yes,
man.
gotta hit on them picks, man.
Now
Got to get that first round talent.
the next question from the Colonel Goody: if we are in rebuild mode, who are we going to trade? We do not have a Sauce Gardner or Quinnen Williams like the Jets did. We're talking major rebuild if we're going to deal players like Deron Payne and Sam Cosmi.
Where did
Yeah,
Sam Cosmi come from? That was crazy.
yeah, I was gonna
Well,
say.
his mindset is like those are the tradable
Oh,
pieces.
those are the
If we're
tradable
in a
assets.
major
Yeah,
rebuild
I
to
got you.
trade, Sam
Yeah.
Cosmi would warrant you something.
Nah, I got you.
Yeah, yeah, that was literally the same two people I was going to mention in
Right.
terms of kind of having some kind of skin in the game and or in terms of getting something back that you can utilize. Um, for me personally, considering their age and the way that they kind of solidify their position on the field on the team, I wouldn't even entertain trading those two guys. I feel like you're not going to get a return that's going to bring more value to your team than what you already have in those two guys. And those two key positions, right? Everybody talks about building a team where it starts in the trenches. So to give up your best defensive guy in the trench and you're one of your best, if not your best guy on the offensive trench, that's like shooting yourself in the foot. That's Cheddar Bob mentality right there, and I think that I think that you're better off holding on to those two pieces and kind of working with what you have around it. Um, we've had I mean, this probably happens across all types of franchises, all types of leagues, but when we ship off our guys and they go somewhere else and they shine, right? I don't want to see that again. I've seen that story play over too many times in Washington. Let's hold our guys down. Unless they don't want to be here, that's a different story. Assuming they want to be here, assuming they want to continue what we started with this new regime, those two pieces are too valuable for me to even try to acquire picks for.
Yeah, I actually, Colonel, I don't believe Washington is in a total rebuild. Look, I understand that this season has been a disaster, right? It obviously has. We're the Japanese at Midway. We came in overconfident, thinking we had it over on people, and then we lost 4 of our aircraft carriers in a matter of minutes and hours. So what I'll say is this. They were not utilized correctly, especially defensively. There were pieces that could have been moved around in places that you needed them to, and the offense has actually done that. I talked to Logan on Monday. He talked about how Cliff is kind of in his bag, so to speak, doing things that he doesn't necessarily usually do because he's in more of the 3x1 sets. He's having more tight ends on the field because there aren't a lot of wide receivers, so he's having to mix things up. Defensively, that we were not doing that. And yeah, we moved Luvu down to more of like an edge rusher, but that was towards the end of like the last couple weeks that move
It's
actually
only
happened.
after Dorrance Armstrong went down, basically.
Right, like that. My whole point is you had those pieces that weren't playing well, and you could have utilized them in better pieces. So what I'll say is this: obviously the injuries are crazy. I don't think that we are in a total rebuild. We just need to get our head out of our ass, and we need to actually do what we're supposed to do and put these players in a position to succeed. Build on what you have. Build on these last couple games. Build that up. Finish on a good note, and go into next season looking to get better in every area possible in realistic fashion. And you have to be able to build up, raise that floor as much as you possibly can. And I know that to Goody's point, Broski Bear said, everyone will be concerned about acquiring skilled position players, but you need to solidify the trenches first and foremost. I draft players on the O and D lines and a cornerback somewhere in the mix. To your point, Goody, Broski Bear agrees with you. Kevin PRF said, I don't mind trading down. Putting all your eggs in one basket can get you a blue chip player. It can get you a Chase Young, too, which is fair. I talked about this last week saying that, the Browns got Myles Garrett. What have they done with Myles Garrett? Like, yeah, the impact player is great and all, but you could also make the argument that we have Jaden Daniels. We have the kind of makeup to do something with an impact player, blue chip playmaker. And this defensive coaching staff in particular, Kevin, I would say that they have proven to be they're at their best with an impact player on the D-line. And so I would go down the route saying that needs to be the focus, right? Getting that player in here so you can actually be maximized in everything that you do. Last
To your
question.
point, now I was gonna say to your point, we have an elevator on offense in Jaden. We saw that last year.
Yeah.
We need an elevator on defense that's gonna put those guys in a better position down in and down out, no matter who else is on the field with him. So
Yeah, I
we
gotta
gotta
have somebody that's gonna instill fear. You know, you gotta have a
exactly.
fear factor
We
on
don't have
defense.
anyone on defense right now that offensive coordinators are like, all right, going into the week, we got to make sure we know where that guy's at all times. We don't have that guy at all right now.
I would say Javon Kinlaw is that guy on defense right now.
Yeah, because he's getting doubled a lot.
As
So
much as it's crazy how many times Jonathan Vilma said on the broadcast that Frankie Louvu is the best player on defense right now.
yeah.
I love Vilma. I respect his
Mhm.
opinion, but hell no, in my opinion. Now, the next question we have is from Chris Comerton. Goody, do you think Joe Wick gets fired at the end of the season, stays on in another role, or is DQ potentially training him to be the DC for next season and showing him what he's doing wrong and will give him another chance?
I'm gonna say no to that last one. Um, I don't think he's showing him how it's done so that he can bring him back on next season. And with that being said, I do think that he does get relieved of his job. Um, I mean, it's kind of hard because when he was in Dallas with Dan Quinn, he was the cornerbacks coach, right, or secondary or passing game coordinator, something like that. So maybe he does go back into that role. I think that's where he is right now, right?
That's what
Maybe
he
he
did
stays
at
there.
Green Bay as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of more or less his pocket. This was probably just an attempt to elevate his career, and it's really hard to say if he stays on in that role or if he's actually released and let go. I think, me personally, I would just to test the ability of this head coach Dan Quinn in terms of him being able to kind of swallow his own pride, just to see if somebody's able to do something like that is kind of give you encouragement to somebody, to myself at least, to see that he's willing to kind of go against his own preferences to, for the betterment of the product. So if he does relieve him of his duties, I would be kind of, I would be excited, not excited, but I would be pleased with that decision. Just based off of Dan Quinn being able to kind of, again, swallow his own pride, knowing that that's one of his closest friends, colleagues, um, and just being able to throw something else into it to try to show like, hey, we're really trying to get this right. Will he be here? I'm gonna say no. If he does stay, there's question marks that is gonna kind of remain for the remainder of that season, depending on how the defense plays. About him making the decision to hold on to the guy that hasn't had success versus letting him just walk and getting somebody else in here.
Yeah. So Dan Quinn talked about when he was in Dallas, he would actually allow some of his coaches to do the game planning and meetings with their positions, right? So if they were like a secondaries coach, there would be one week where he would allow the secondary coach to come up with a defensive game plan for that week. Because, like, he really does invest in building guys up to do more. It's not just about Dan Quinn. I'm not just trying to promote myself and to get to this sort of pedigree. I want my guys to also do well, right? What good is first class if all my boys can't sit? J. Cole, some J. Cole lyrics for you. So I think Dan Quinn lives by that. And so what I'd say is I don't think Dan Quinn's going to walk away from Joe Witt. But I do think that Dan Quinn is going to say, you maybe were not 100% ready yet. So let's get back to your comfort zone in the secondary passing game coordinator. Let's roll with that. You're still vital to me, helpful to me. And let's do that. Do what you are at your best. And then we will see another avenue, be able to get somebody in here to do defensive coordinator, to learn from, and to continue to get better. I'm sure Joe Witt is learning from Dan Quinn right now. But I would have to say that you do have to take the brakes off for a little bit with him in order to get him back to where you want him to truly be as a head coach. I don't think Dan Quinn is going to just straight up fire him. But I do think Dan Quinn is going to, push him down a little bit, but not ultimately fire him at all.
Well, to the last option, I don't think that he's like sitting there watching Dan Quinn and trying to learn from Dan Quinn, and he's going to give them back the play calling duties next year. I think that once you get the play calling stripped from you, that's pretty much it. Like you don't really turn back to that guy to call plays again. that season, let alone the following season. So I think that option's off the table. Me personally, I don't like advocate for guys to get fired unless they just do something really, really, really egregious. So I don't want to be like, he needs to go, but I do think that Dan Quinn needs to show that, like, hey, like, he's already showed accountability as far as like, hey, I'm taking over the play calling, but I think he needs to show overall accountability. And the defense has not been what it's supposed to be over the past year and a half. You've been the guy in charge of that. I've already gave you the one demotion. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to move on from you. I know that's his boy. They've been around each other for multiple years, multiple different stops. But I just think that if you try to demote him and say, hey, like, you're a great defensive passing game coordinator, let's just get you back in that role and build you back up again. But what are you telling Jason Simmons? Hey, like, you weren't good enough either. You're going to demote Jason Simmons as well. You can't just like keep knocking guys down the ladder. Eventually, at some point, someone along that ladder is going to be like, well, what did I do wrong? And now they're going to have some type of saltiness towards Dan Quinn of, well, why am I getting demoted? What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't a part of X, Y, and Z. So I just think that for all sides, need to get a fresh new start. Joe Witt, I'm sure he's built other relationships around the league. He can hop on another coaching staff, be a passing game coordinator over there, build himself up again, maybe get another shot down the line at a defensive coordinator role.
He'd probably go to
But
Dallas.
go back to Dallas, obviously. That could definitely be a thing as well. So, I just think that both sides need to just part ways, fresh start going into 2026. And Dan Quinn, obviously, I know a lot of people are looking at Al Harris as the number one guy on probably Dan Quinn's list, just because a lot of people thought Al Harris would get the job last year or before Joe Witt got the job. And so we'll see what happens with that. But I just think that me personally, I think I would love Al Harris. That'd be cool. But I want to see Dan Quinn, if he makes a new hire, go outside of his comfort zone. Go to someone that you are maybe like a Vic Fangio type of like D coordinator where like he's done it before in the league. He's been established. He has a track record of defensive coordinating in NFL at a high level. And don't just go with a guy that like, okay, I know that guy. I've worked with him before. He has the same scheme as me, so I can implement my scheme again as well. Like I think we need like a whole new type of scheme change, maybe.
Well, I'm not sure because Dan Quinn's overseeing of it, obviously.
And that's why I'm kind of like, I think it'll be Al Harris or like someone he's working with, Raheem Morris, if he gets fired or whatever it may be.
You got to remember that Dallas shut us off from interviewing.
That's because they weren't trying to upgrade his role. You can only interview a guy if you're trying to give him a better title. They just wanted him to be a DB coach.
And Al Harris is the defensive coordinator in Dallas.
No, he's DB coach.
I'm pretty sure he's a defensive coordinator.
No, he's DB coach and passing game coordinator.
Who's the defensive coordinator from Dallas then?
Let me see. I'm pretty sure Will Blackman the other day I retweeted. He was like, it's time to give Al Harris his flowers for maybe like the top defensive coordinator job going into 2026. Roll with Bears.
Bears.
He's with the Bears right now.
Al Harris?
Defensive backs coach, defensive passing game coordinator.
Oh, it is Eberflus. You're right. Oh my gosh, I'm tripping. What did they do with? I thought he stayed with Dallas.
No, he moved on. He wanted to follow Dan Quinn, but Dan Quinn didn't offer him a upgrade.
Okay, yes. Then I would agree. It is Al Harris. Okay,
and he also
let's move on.
He got an upgrade in Chicago as the passing game coordinator as well.
Okay, all right. So
you look at his track record, the past 3 stops he's been at, the DBs he's coached have led the league in interceptions. So I'm just saying, our secondary needs some help. That's a perfect guy.
All right, now last question from Tim Town. We're going rapid fire. Today is November 22nd. In 1963, the day Kennedy was assassinated. So let's have some fun with conspiracy theories. What sort of coaching changes do you expect after this season? We have a lot of coaches too. And what sort of deals would you expect AP to swing to restock our draft capital? I would expect that Cliff Kingsbury might move on to a college head coaching job, or I don't know, maybe a head coaching job somewhere else. We pick up Mike McDaniel. If Cliff stays, I do think we still pick up Mike McDaniel. In order to restock our draft capital, I think that we sign Brandon Aiyuk in the offseason and then trade him before the draft. What do you say, Alf?
Yeah, you got it.
No. I would say to restock draft capital, the best conspiracy theory out there, the best way to do it would be trade Laramie Tunsil get the picks that you traded for him, get them back basically, and you don't have to pay him. You save some cap money and you spend that cap money to upgrade the defense. I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying there's people out there that
I
want to do
got
that.
you. It is a conspiracy theory. That's a good one.
And
because I thought about that myself.
what was the other one? The swing type of deals he's going to swing. Or no, a coaching staff. I say that Cliff stays, and I think that David Blau and a guy like that gets pushed off our staff and becomes offensive coordinator somewhere else.
Okay. Goody, you got anything?
Restocking the draft picks. Maybe you're able, like you mentioned earlier, Hall, able to trade back in one of the second or third rounds.
But trade Terry.
That'll get you some picks. I know Kyle doesn't want to hear that, but I think he still heard that. I would say trade back in maybe one of the middle rounds. You don't got to move a ton of real estate, but if you're able to get anything back, obviously we've had some success in the late rounds. There's a lot of talent across the whole draft, year in and year out. So, for example, Bill was a 7th round pick. So if you could trade back in like the 2nd or 3rd or 4th, wherever those picks lie, just to get a little bit extra, that's what you're going to get. We're not going to be looking to double our pick count here this offseason. Also, I'm not sure if we do get a pick back for Jonathan Allen. I'm not sure if that 6 is including that pick or not, but we may get one of those picks back. In terms of coaching staff, I'm going to say I think Cliff stays on again. I think Joe Witt's gone. Pretty excited to see what we have in the defense. I don't think it'll be anybody within the building that gets called up to de-coordinate, so it's going to be an outside source. Just waiting for that offseason to kind of kick in and see what the rumors start to swirl as. But that's what I got.
Yeah, the time to trade Terry was this summer, not after an injury like that.
They wouldn't even trade him anyway.
North of 30. I thank you.
He demanded a trade. Requested.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, people want to get picks back. He's the guy that can get you some picks back.
No.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would.
If you think he's that good, he definitely gonna get you some picks back.
He would. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy some.
They can't hurt you this week.
Stressless football tomorrow. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you again this week, probably on Tuesday, because this is obviously a Saturday, so we'll give it a couple days. But on Tuesday, most likely, keep an ear out for us for another episode. For everyone that contributed to this, thank you to Chris Comberton. Thank you, Tim Towner, to the Colonel. Thank you, Tommy T, Kevin, PRF. Thank you, Broski Bear. I appreciate you all for contributing. And also thank you to Goody. Thank you to Hall for being flexible to make this happen this morning. We are morning people, so this isn't too bad, harsh on us. Honestly, I actually enjoy it.
I actually like it. This is actually a little bit better than like trying to do it at like 8 o'clock at night some nights.
I know.
A little bit easier, I should say.
So tired.
Yeah.
So
my
tired.
kids are usually not up until about the now. So at night they're up all night. So
how many kids do you have?
I got 3.
How old are they?
My oldest is 14, and my 2 little ones, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Dude, you're like Anthony Armstrong, dude. Dude, you look 20. It's crazy.
Thank you. Yep, my son's a freshman in high school. Crazy.
Oh, my goodness. Bless your heart. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. We'll see you again this week. Enjoy tomorrow. Enjoy your week and be safe. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
Goody.
And we'll see you then. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks.